This is my garden journal entry for September of 2020. It's a really windy day out there today, so what I've decided to do is try a different format. I'm not going to try to record over the windy conditions that I don't have the equipment for. So here are a bunch of slides which I will provide a commentary for. It's been about 30 years since I was on this property, and the trees have kind of gotten away from me in a couple of places. So we're starting with trees. I like trees, but I hate cutting them down, but there are times when they get too big, you know. They grow too close to buildings and structures and things, and if they get too tall then they get very hard to deal with. So these paper birch in particular are a problem for me, so I'm thinning them out, and some of them are really quite big. This is what we're working towards. These are 4-foot long bucked lengths of wood which will end up eventually in the wood stove. The white trunks that you can see here are paper birch, and the grey ones are a mixture of ash and hickory. Once these piles get a bit high, they start to get unstable, so you don't want to build them too high. And here are a few paper birch which have been felled. As you can see, I don't have very much room for maneuver here, and if they get a few feet taller than this, what could happen is when they come down they would hit one of my structures. So I'm dealing with them now. Here's a view of how tall they appear to be. After a few have been removed, you can see that there are still some in there which are rather tall. One of them that's leaning over at a precarious angle here is one which has been partly cut and has become lodged, or is leaning up against other trees. So they require a bit more hard work to get them out. And here's a quick view of the base where I am working. There's one 4-foot bucked length over on the right here, and 3 others which are waiting to be cut into lengths. One of the challenges is that some of them want to fall towards structures. So the exciting thing is to make the tree fall so that it almost hits the structure, but not quite. And the closer you can get it, the more points you get. And then of course you just have to move those bucked lengths to a place where it will be easy to reduce them to the wood stove size necessary. All of these will be fairly easy to cut up. If you keep carrying the logs on your left shoulder, it means that you get bent over towards the left, so people look at you a bit funny because you're walking strange. And now for an overview of the rest of the garden. Here's the deck. A collection of avocado, rosemary, yellow elder, and a tangerine and some empty pots. How about that? The greenhouse, which used to contain tomatoes and loofahs, has now been stripped bare. Pots are empty, and I will show you the root areas in a later slide. The bees are looking good and have been a great deal of fun. Right now we have 2 boxes only. Those are the white boxes at the bottom containing the brood chamber. All of the honey supers have been removed and they are preparing to go into winter with a very large amount of honey stores to get them through the winter. That black box on the top is what's called a medium deep super, and it's really just a bunch of empty space at the moment, which I am using to feed the bees sugar syrup, and later will become an area for insulation for the winter. The major food supply out in the wild for the bees at the moment is the goldenrod. Lots of goldenrod around here, and I can see that the foraging bees are still hauling back pollen despite some cool temperatures. This is a row of very heavy Kentucky Wonder beans. The bush beans did not do particularly well because of drought earlier in the summer, but these beans have done quite well, and as usual any slight weakness at the base of the poles will be amplified greatly by their height. They start to break. Lots of beans coming. I grow my tomatoes in plain garden dirt mixed with a lot of compost. They do rather well. This is what happens when you take the big pots and you turn them upside down and you tip out the root ball from the tomatoes. The top of the tomatoes, of course, goes straight onto the compost. A few weeks ago I removed potatoes from this area. I've now planted out strawberry plants, and on the left that is, and on the right, just in front of the black tarp, you can see a very short row of arugula or rocket, which I will be pulling in the later fall. Let's not talk about squash. I think I got 2 squash, and that was after replanting and replanting and replanting the squash and having them fail every time due to massive attacks of insects. Very difficult to handle in the dry early summer. And this is what happens to your grass if you spread out a large amount of tarp and you lay your bush beans out on them to dry out, but then you get hit by day after day after day of wet. The tarp has to remain in place, and you just hope for drier weather to dry out the beans. Eventually they do dry, but after weeks and weeks of sitting there, the grass under the tarp does not survive very well. And to finish up, I'm just going to leave you with a very short video of the conditions at the moment. A panoramic shot with lots of wind. Thanks for watching, and bye.